So today is the worldwide release date of Chaos Impact, the newest TCG booster set for Yu-Gi-Oh! And as always on the channel, we like to go through and talk about some cards from the new set that could come to Duel Links. Now, we just saw today the release of the newest mini box in Duel Links that gave us Mordschlag, I think that's how you say it, might be a different way you say it. That was in Dark Neostorm, so 2 sets ago, and I predicted that in my video. So these are really like a kind of things to look back on in the future to see, was Brad right, was Brad wrong, and were you guys right down below? Let me know what you think of what cards you think from this set could come to the game as well, because this set focused a lot on obviously some range support, some Marincess, you have Hakai, you had a ton of other cool archetypes in here, but there was 2 main legacy archetypes that were big in Duel Links that got some new support, so we're going to go into them, go through some other cards, and let me know what you think. So first up, we have Gladiator Beast, starting off with Gladiator Beast ATRIX, I think it's ATRIX in the TCG. This is a very cool Beast Warrior, 800 attack points, 2000 defense points. If it's special summoned by the effect of a Gladiator Beast monster, you could send one Gladiator Beast from your deck or extract to the graveyard. This card becomes its name and its level, which means that if you need certain Gladiator Beasts for a fusion, or a special summon of another one, then this card can become it. So it's basically a fusion substitute for Gladiator Beasts, which is really, really cool. Now, the only problem with this, honestly, is that there is no main phase 2 in Duel Links, which means this effect is going to be not used that much. There is a brand new quick play spell card in the TCG that lets you fuse Gladiator Beasts during your battle phase. In Duel Links at least, this effect you probably won't be getting off too much. That's basically the only real gist of this guy's effect. Otherwise, it's a set face down or whatnot. Gets a Gladiator Beast in your graveyard if you need it there for another card's effect, which is always a really, really good thing. But beyond that, I don't know how good this card is going to be if it came to Duel Links, but I thought I'd include it because we have other ones like Gladiator Beast Sagittari, which is a Destiny draw on summon. So when it's special summoned by the effect of a Gladiator Beast monster, you could discard one Gladiator Beast card from your hand to draw 2 cards, which in that deck is going to be very, very useful. Obviously, the deck does like recycling in the battle phase, but beyond that, there's not really much searching going on with the core strategy in Duel Links, and if you can get a monster card out that can do that, then that's going to be very, very useful. And again, I'm not saying this card should be a 3-off, because otherwise it might be a bit too broken to let you go into your deck and draw in multiple times because you can't just recycle itself out next turn. But as a hard 1-off, that could be pretty good. And of course, it is fairly weak statted, so that is kind of the downside to it. That is the main weakness of this card. But if you can fusion it off during your next turn or something, then maybe that will be a worthwhile card to play. Then we have my favorite of the new Gladiator Beast cards, Gladiator Beast Vespasius. This is a level 7 Water Sea Serpent. Oh, you gotta love the Sea Serpent cards. 2300-0. At the start of the damage step, if your Gladiator Beast monster battles an opponent's monster, you can special this card from your hand. That is really, really, really good. Getting another monster on board, and a very big monster on board of that, is really nice. Plus, if you're special summoned by the effect of a Gladiator Beast monster, all Gladiator Beasts on your field gain 500 attack points. That is going to be, I believe, a permanent buff, which is really, really nice if that's the case. Obviously, you're going to tag out at the end of the battle phase. This card is essentially a hand trap beatdown, which is really, really cool when you think about it. And he's also very vital for other Gladiator Beast cards, like the fusion Gladiator Beast Dominatus. So we don't have Geyserus in game. I believe that's one of the only good Gladiator Beast fusions we're missing in the game currently, which is a shame. But this guy is very, very big. He requires a Vespasius plus 2 other Gladiator Beasts, so 3 cards, perfect for Duel Links. Must first be special from the extra deck by shuffling the above cards into your deck because you don't use Polymerization. It's a contact fusion, it's one of the Gladiator Beast's main things. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can negate activation. If you do, destroy that card. So it is the opposite of a Shien, basically. And in Duel Links now, we're getting into a very monster effect heavy meta, so that's going to be very, very cool. And it doesn't target, it doesn't like target the monster, negate the effect, it just negates the effect. So that's also really good for Duel Links right now. The best part though is you choose the targets for your opponent's attacks. So your opponent will most likely choose not to attack in because they can just make everything crash into Dominatus and get, and just kill you basically, So this is a very, very cool mechanic for Gladiator Beasts to have. I believe one of the only other cards in the game that has this kind of mechanic is Patrician of Darkness. I think we have that in Duel Links already. So this would just be a very interesting card. And now the downside, the only real downside to this is that if you want to tag him out, he only summons out 1 Gladiator Beast monster from your deck, whereas other ones might summon out 2 or 3, this fusion only gets you one, but I feel like that's fine because you're not really going to be tagging this guy out unless you really need another Gladiator Beast effect like a pop on the field or something. You're not really going to be tagging him out, so I think that's fine. Then we have Gladiator Beast Comeback, a spell card, special 1 Gladiator Beast from your hand or graveyard with a different type than the monsters you control, and if you do, it can't be destroyed by battle. I think this is fine. I mean, it isn't a once per turn effect, which is a bit insane, but it does get you more materials on board to then go into the big guy, which I talked about, and which talked about, or into any of the other Gladiator Beast fusions. There are other Gladiator Beast support spell and trap cards in this set. As I talked about earlier, there is a quick play Miracle Fusion basically for the archetype, which would make going into Dominatus incredibly powerful. I don't think we should get that, but I feel like Comeback might be okay as a 1 or 2 of in the game. I'm not too sure on the exact ratio, but I want to see Gladiator Beast come back and be good, and I feel like these cards will help them at least come back and be maybe a tier 2 deck or something. And I have this sort of headcanon timeline that they'll give us Armor Master, and then we'll get Geyserus in the game just to kind of counter it. So look forward to that at some point in the future, maybe, who knows. Next up, let's turn our heads to another fan favorite Duel Links archetype, the Aromages. They got a new Synchro, some new monsters, and some new spell and trap card support. We're not talking about the Synchro or the traps today because the Synchro relies on cards we haven't got in Duel Links yet. It relies on the Blessed Winds and all that stuff trap card, which we haven't got in the game. The rest of the archetype, though, I think is pretty fair, and to be fair, that card could come to Duel Links to get our support, but let me know what you think. Aroma Guarding, a brand new continuous spell card. If you normal or special an Aroma monster, you gain 1000 life points, triggering their effects. That's really, really good. When an opponent's monster collects attack points while your life are lower than your opponent's, you can special 1 Aroma from your deck, and each affects a hard once per turn. So you summon out your Aroma, and then you can gain 1000 life points from this card's effect. That's really, really nice, and then it triggers that card's effect, and if it's the one that turns into defense mode, you can then do that, or if it's a Jasmine, you could draw a card or whatever. So really, this card helps you when you're down, which Aromages really need. I think they needed the whole, if your life is less than your opponent's. I feel like they had the life being higher covered, but it was a bit hard outside of Aroma Garden to actually then accrue life points again, to then be in that advantage position. So this card basically lets you climb back up to where you were before, which is really cool. Then we have 2 new monsters, Aromage Loria. I believe in the TCG this is Aromage Laurel. This is a level 1 plant. If your life is higher than your opponent's, you can special this card from your hand. If you gain life, target a plant on your field. It's now treated as a tuner, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can gain 500. So again, triggering off the effects, making other monsters tuners, which is really good for the deck, because then you can run things like Rose Lover in the deck and make that a tuner, which that's pretty spicy if you think about it. So really, this is just a very good utility card for the deck, and I would love to see this come to Duel Links. We then also have Aromage Marjoram. The Synchro is based off of her. This one is the monster that while your life is higher than your opponent's, you take no battle damage from attacks involving your plant monster, so I apologize, I thought it was a Synchro, it's not, it's this one. So this one is like the bit of a weird one for me as to whether it comes to Duel Links or not, but I'd like to see it. You can only use the following effects once per turn. When your plant is destroyed by battle, you can special this card from your hand. If you do, gain 500, and if you gain life points, you can target cards in your opponent's graveyard up to the number of aromas you control and banish them. So really, getting to that point of Duel Links where we will start to see more graveyard removal, which is really good obviously when Neos Fusion, with things like Necro Valley kind of around, stopping that thing happening. But as we kind of move on, I feel like graveyard banishing is going to be a key thing you're going to want to look for when building your next deck. Now we move away from the legacy support to go on to some other cards. DD Patrol Plane. This to me was some easy Thunder Dragon support. During the end phase, this card is currently banished and was banished this turn. You can banish 1 card in your hand, field or grave, and if you do, specialist in attack mode, once per turn effect. This to me just synergizes too well with the whole Thunder Dragon strategy, and yeah, just DD cards in general. We've got some of them, but not all of them. Like, we're still missing some pretty key contenders in the deck, and I don't think this one is going to be one of the better cards, but might be a fun little tech card that can at least help you at some point in the game, especially with Thunder Dragons or with, say, Metaphys or something. So yeah, it's an interesting card. Then we have Hop-Eared Flying Squad. This one's actually called Hop-Eared Squadron in the TCG. This is a really cool card. During your opponent's main phase, you can target one face of monster you control, specialist card from your hand, then immediately synchro summon using that monster and this card. So in your opponent's turn, getting off a synchro summon. So basically, right before they hit their battle phase, you can go into a big monster like Black Rose Dragon or Scrap Dragon or something and then start nuking the board, popping cards, or doing things like that. So this would be a very fun tech card that people could just splash into any deck really and get some benefit off it if they can go into easy level 6s, level 7s, level 5s or whatever. That could be a really fun strategy to play around with, and that's something I think we need to see in Duel Links is more support for synchros and just speeding up the game a little bit, and not exactly knowing when your opponent's going to synchro summon could be a very fun thing to play around in Duel Links. Then we have Mimikuriel, which is basically, if you remember that trap card back in the early days of Duel Links where you'd reveal the top card of your opponent's deck, if it was a normal monster, you summon it to your field. This is kind of like that in a monster card form, so during your main phase, you can activate the top card of your deck, and if you do, especially if it's a monster, and if you do that, this card goes on the bottom of the deck. But you place the monster you summoned on the bottom of the deck during the end phase, so you must really get the use out of it during that turn. So you can synchro summon it off, tribute it off, attack with it, go for game with it, or just deal some more damage or something. Really, you need to use that monster to its fullest in that turn. Now, if it wasn't a monster or the monster can't be special summoned, you just place it on the bottom of the deck and Mimikuriel stays on your field. So either way, you're still having a monster on board, but this card just lets you get into your bigger monsters easier, and at least with some sort of a catch in that it will leave the field at the end of the turn, so you do need to use it to the best of its ability during this turn. Then we have Old Mind. I love this spell card, a very fun spell card. Look at one random card in your opponent's hand, then apply one of the following effects. Either discard both that opponent's card and one card from your hand with the same time, so monster, spell, or trap card. Then you add this card to your opponent's hand, so essentially you're going to be doing this mind game thing of both players playing it per turn and then deciding what effect to use, or you lose 1,000 life points. So either you get the knowledge of a card in your opponent's hand and lose 1,000, you pay 1,000 to get that knowledge, or you discard a card from your opponent's hand, discard a card from your hand, and then give this card to your opponent so they can do it on their next turn, and then risk them, giving it back to you and stuff. So it's a very fun little mind game strategy. I really like it, and I feel like if it came to Duel Links, it might become a very meta-relevant card. Just anything that gives you knowledge in Duel Links is going to be very worthwhile, and paying life points for that, and especially with the skill system in Duel Links whereby most skills trigger based on the number of life points you have, this could be a very, very good card to play with that. So I'd quite like to see it. And I believe this is the last card we have. It's not. We have Galactic Spiral Dragon. Now that Beatdown has been nerfed, this card is even more interesting. So if you control 2 or more light or dark monsters on the field, while this card's in your hand or graveyard, you can special this card in defense mode, but banish it when it leaves the field, and during your main phase, you can make all monsters you currently control become level 8. So this is very clearly designed to be rank 8 support for Xyz summoning. That's fine. We're getting in Duel Links. If Beatdown hadn't been nerfed, this card would be broken because then you could get an extra 300 points of damage on board every single turn, but now it's only 1 time per turn. And the fact it summons in defense mode obviously means that you can't attack with it the turn it's summoned, which is a very fair thing for the card to do. Otherwise, you would just have this and then beat down and you'd probably win that turn. So I like this card just because of how easy it is to summon. It supports that whole Chaos archetype, which I feel like we're slowly getting into with Chaos Sorcerer, with the Thunder Dragons. It could be a very, very fun card to play around with, and one that, in the future of Zexal could be could be a bit meta relevant. And then we have Rebirth Revision, or in a TCS it's known as World Reassembly. This is support for World Legacy monsters. Special one from your hand or deck, but destroys the end phase of your next turn. Only one of these can activate per turn. We have 2 World Legacies in the game so far. We have the Ultra Rare card, and then we have Mardark, which would be a very, very cool thing to have a trap card that can summon Mardark from the deck. Mardark, of course, will reduce your opponent's response to attack points. That could be a very fun combo. I would like to see more World Legacy support come to Duel Links, however, they are a very link-heavy archetype, so understandably why some of the support we get can't come to the game just yet. But this could be pretty interesting. And that, I believe, is it. That is definitely it for everything we have to talk about today regarding Chaos Impact. Let me know down below what you think. I'm sure there are definitely some cards, as always, that I'm probably way too wrong on, but I thought we'd just talk about them anyway. The set's out today in the TCG, so if you want to go pick it up, go do so. It's a pretty cool set. There's some pretty cool cards in it, as you can see here. And yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully we did a stream earlier today and you guys enjoyed that, opening the new booster set. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next Duel Links video. See you then.